Hello and welcome to another Deck Tech where I give you a personal tour of one of my commander decks. This week it is my Omnath deck that I used against Muldrotha. That was in the boss fight episode 4. If you haven't watched that, you can catch it here and then come back to this video or vice versa, wherever you fancy. That was a super fun game as well, let me just say, even if it did turn into a bit of an Oko off. First of all, I just want to say that I was inspired to make this deck because I had always wanted to make a Lands Matter deck, especially after playing against my boyfriend's Lord Windgrace deck so much when we first started playing Magic, and thought that a Lands deck looked like so much fun, especially you don't not hit land drops, which is like the worst thing, to not get land drops. But I didn't find a commander that really ticked the boxes. It wasn't until Zendikar Rising was released that I found my guy, which was Omnath Locus of Creation. So Omnath Locus of Creation is a 4-costing, 1 red, 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue, 4/4 legendary elemental creature. When it enters, you draw a card, and he has 3 landfall triggers per turn. So the first one, you gain 4 life. The second time you play land, you get a red, green, white, blue mana. And then the third landfall trigger deals 4 damage to each opponent and planeswalker. And the thing that drew me to this commander is just how versatile it is. You know, you could build this in a lot of ways and go down different routes with it. I find that I personally enjoy Magic when I know anything can happen with my deck. I don't want to win the same way every time because it's just not that fun in my opinion, which is why I don't have much combo decks. Although I've had this deck for a little while, I don't get to play it that much. I prefer to play it in multiplayer, and with everything that's going on with lockdown and all that crap, I've played absolutely zero multiplayer. So there's not many multiplayer focused cards, as I've tuned it to more 1v1 just to make it a bit more fun when playing against my partner. So I'm definitely still wanting to work on and improve the deck. So if you've got any suggestions for cards that I should put in, or even better, cards that I can swap in so you know which ones I should take out, please let me know in the comments. Taking out cards is the hardest job for me when it comes to Magic, so you'd be doing me a solid favour if you knew a card that I should replace. I feel like that's the worst bit, is when you build a deck and you put all these cards in and then you're like way over and you have to take cards out. That is like the worst bit for me. But I do love this deck. It's really fun to play with. Every time I've played with it, it's been really fun. And different things have happened. And I know in my mind that I do underrate this deck as well whenever I play it. So it needs more credit than I give it, really. So let's have a look at the deck. When it comes to green ramp classics, there's Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Rampant Growth, Roiling Regrowth, and Harrow. So they all cost between 2 and 3 mana, which is great for early game, or to save for when I have Omnath out and I can trigger him a few times straight away. A similar card to those is Fertile Footsteps, or Beanstalk Giant, which is a 2-for-1 ramp and a big smashy creature. This card is from Eldraine, so it has this beautiful showcase art, this storybook art, which y'all know that I love so very much. I could praise Eldraine all day, I think. I'm a bit of an Eldraine simp, what can I say? The only thing about Beanstalk Giant is that it doesn't have trample, which is why I have a Mina and Den in the deck. So my opponents can't just block it with a crappy token and kind of meaningless on the board. Another classic, Sakura Tribe Elder, also known as Stevie Boy. He's looking a little bit Lord Voldemort on this art, I have to say. Where's your nose? Nissa, who shakes the world, instantly doubles your forests. The majority of basic lands I run are forests, so she does a lot for this deck considering Omnath is full colour. Her Planeswalker abilities aren't bad either. Her ultimate is very nice spicy. Elvish Rejuvenator usually pays off and gets me a land drop, but it's pretty unlucky if you don't. It's good to have a blocker on the board as well. Another amazing Eldraine card is Faber Elder, which is awesome ramp, and potentially you get 4 mana from it. And then finally, for ramp, I've saved the best to last with Lotus Cobra. Damn, is this a good card. It gives you such an advantage, and you can get it down as early as turn 2. I always tease at my boyfriend that he always has a Lotus Cobra, and I always have a Sol Ring. Next up, we've got some cards that let me search for any land. There's some real spicy lands in this deck that lead me to win, such as Field of the Dead, Dark Depths, and Thespian Stage, so it's important to have ways to search for any land as well as basics. They're also really useful for tutoring up fetch lands, which trigger Omnath twice. Hour of Promise, first of all, allows me to search for any 2 lands and put them on the battlefield, which triggers Omnath twice. The latter part of making zombies is irrelevant for this deck. I don't run any deserts, but paying 5 for any 2 land drops is really beneficial for my game plan. This has got an altar sleeve on it, which looks really nice, it's shiny. Next, we've got Elvish Reclaimer and Expedition Map. They let me look for any land, and Elvish Reclaimer makes a nice blocker once I have 3 or more lands in my graveyard, which isn't really hard. Knight of the Royal Queen can get quite big as well. If you watch the gameplay, you will know the power of Ulvenwald Hydra. As well as it searching me any land, it also gets pretty chunky and scary for opponents. Plus it has reach, which is really good for this deck as I don't have any flying blockers. In order to hit Omnath's 2nd and 3rd landfall triggers, I have included a lot of ways to play extra lands on my turn. So first we have the beautiful Extended Art Exploration. Damn, look at that, girl. This is just chef's kiss. Oh my gosh, I could stare at this all day. Then we got my boy Wayward Sawtooth, always helping me out, letting me play an extra land. With this deck, you get the City's Blessing pretty quickly because you're playing so many lands, and he's a great blocker as well. As I said before, Mina and Den, Wildborn, also has the ability to give a creature trample, which I'll want to do to creatures such as Ulvenwald Hydra or Beanstalk Giant to get the most out of it. Dryad of the Elysian Grove balances out my mana, so tapping the right lands to cast spells is one less thing to worry about. I know it's not a giant worry, but if you don't have to think about what lands you're tapping, then that's great, isn't it? Oracle of Muldiah is a fun one because you play with the top card of your library revealed. So your opponents can see what's coming and start panicking. And the other day I played it and I had an Avenger of Zendikar on top of my deck, and my boyfriend's face was so funny. And there was nothing he could do about it. It also means that you can save the land drops in your hand if you have a land on top of your library. So you can also hit Omnath's triggers on your opponent's turn with Burgeoning. In 1v1 it's good, but obviously you reap the rewards in multiplayer because it reads an opponent. So you can go really crazy with this provided you have enough lands in your hand to start with. Now the real generous lady is Azusa Lost But Seeking, who lets me play 2 extra land cards on my turn. Azusa, I don't know what I did to deserve you, but thank you. This card also has an altar sleeve to make it look extended art again, which is awesome. You can barely tell from far away. Like if you look up close, then yeah, you can kind of see the lines, but you can barely tell. This is also... This video is not sponsored by altar sleeves, I just think they're really cool. As well as playing extra lands, you want to draw extra cards with AEC Tyrant of Gaia Strait. This card is super strong for this deck as you can run out cards really quickly, so it refills your hand nicely. Similar to AEC, Nissa Vital Force's ultimate is powerful and very achievable. She comes in with 5 and it only takes 6 to get her ultimate, so that's really achievable. There is also Tachiova, who also gains you life when you play a land, as well as drawing cards. She's a very nice lady to me. She's freaking awesome in this deck. She's so good. And that leads into Well of Lost Dreams, which works well with Tachiova out or just for Omnath's first landfall trigger. Some classic card draw includes Tireless Tracker, Coiling Oracle, Yavimaya Elder, which, can I just say, is Ian McKellen on a card. Yeah, even though they're bringing out a Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering set, I probably will still think of Yavimaya Elder as the OG Gandalf on a card. Valakut Exploration gently hacks away at your opponents whilst giving you more cards to play. This one saved my bum in the boss fights video, but just in general, I have this also in my Daryl deck, and it's really fun. I really like it. It kind of just makes the game have a little bit of surprise to it. You never know what's going to happen. Trade Routes is a really fun and interesting card for this deck. It brings some flexibility to the deck, and if you have a Splendid Reclamation in your hand, then you can start pumping lands into your graveyard ready for that, which is good. I didn't get to play this card properly in the gameplay episode, but I did actually play Cosima, God of the Voyage, in a game of Commander the other day, which I didn't film. It's typical. The games that I don't film are really, really good. Wow, Cosima did some good the other day. If you can plan out how many lands you're going to get down in the next turn or so, then you can really use Cosima to your advantage and draw cards and get a big-ish blocker down. I think the most cards I drew from one time of returning her to the battlefield was 6 cards, which put 6 counters on her to make her a bit of a chunky gal, you know? She was a big curvy lady. On the other side of this card, we also have the Omen Keel, which is a vehicle that gives you more lands. It's a nice new addition to the deck from Kaldheim. Lovely and shiny as well, which you all know I love. I know it's not quite card draw, but it does a similar thing and is one of my favourite cards, and not just because it's an Eldraine card either. I'm talking about Escape to the Wilds. I really like this art. I've run this card in a few of my decks. I think it's in my Daryl deck as well. It gives you 5 extra cards to play, and you can play an extra land, so you're hitting that Omnath trigger if you haven't already. So it's really good if I'm looking for a win con to finish the game, and I just want to speed things up. So if we're just looking at good stuff for the deck, not necessarily win cons, but stuff that just works really well in the deck. So first of all, Flamekin Harmbringer. It just searches for elementals, so I tend to tutor up one of the other Omnaths, or Titania, Protector of Argoth. Speaking of which, Titania lets me return a land from the graveyard and can create an elemental army with Scapeshift. And this card also has an altar sleeve that's really pretty, gives her an extra leg. Scapeshift is perfect for this deck for so many reasons. It creates absolutely loads of landfall triggers to make a land army or buff my lands. Or if I have a cheeky Valakut exploration on the battlefield, Scapeshift is also a brilliant way to fill my graveyard with lands for when I play Ramuncap Excavator. You can play lands from your graveyard, which is really good, really scary, really fun for the deck. Another great card that works great with Scapeshift is Splendid Reclamation, which brings all land cards back from my graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Not only is this scary because I'll have a sweet ton of mana, but depending on what landfall abilities I have on the battlefield, it could be a KO finisher. If I have something like Rampaging Balos and I bring all my land cards back, I could be bringing 10 plus lands back, making 10 5/5s. If I'm not drawing into lands, then one option is to bring lands back from the graveyard. That's with Renin 6 with the +1 ability. This is great for lands such as fetch lands that you can just keep looping and trigger Omnath all day. I think the art is really beautiful as well. You've got like this guy here, this Sorin-esque vampire looking guy with this like tree guy who looks really cool. I like it. An all-rounder for this deck is Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, which gains me life, draws a card, and lets me put a land card onto the battlefield from my hand, which triggers Omnath once more. The card only costs 3 mana. 3 mana, ladies and gentlemen, for all of this, which is crazy. You can play it at least twice in a game with Escape as well. Yowie, wowie, have we got ourselves a card here. Woo! It's always good to have a fog in this kind of deck, so I've included Constant Mists. This card also has buyback, so you can sack a land to put Constant Mists back into your hand instead of the graveyard. So basically 2 fogs in 1. Going on to win cons, so how I'm going to win the game, scare my opponents away, give them traumatizing nightmares, etc. We're going to start with Omnath Locus of the Royal, which is a win con with Sylvan Awakening. I did this in a game the other day where... Oh, focus camera. Focus. Thank you. I did this in a game the other day where I played Sylvan Awakening first and then played Omnath Locus of the Royal and did a good amount of damage to my opponents. It was very nice. Good feeling. So yeah, I played it with Sylvan Awakening and turns all your lands into 2/2 elemental creatures with reach, indestructible, and haste. They're still lands. So basically, I'm going to make a giant land army that can't be destroyed because they're indestructible. I've only got to worry about sacrifice decks with this one. And yeah, it's pretty powerful. With Omnath Locus of the Royal, it's going to deal damage to the number of elementals you control. So basically, the number of lands I have, then I do damage with that. The other Omnath in this deck, Locus of Rage, makes a big smashy token army and deals damage to target creature or player when another elemental I controls dies, which is why I have other elemental creatures and spells in there. And that damage really adds up as well. Multani Yavimaya's Avatar is a big, scary elemental. It's got reach and trample, so it's another one that deals with flying, which is good. And I can keep bringing it back from the graveyard with its bottom ability. So my opponents can't escape Multani unless they exile it, which is awesome. This card can get really big as well. My other 3 win cons are pretty similar here, as they all make tokens. The main one is Avenger of Zendikar, which I'm sure you know of this card. It creates a ton of plant tokens and buffs them all. Yes, I said all, by 1 whenever I play a land. It's usually over after I play this card. I've normally won the game, so it's powerful for this deck. Rampaging Baloths is pretty simple. Oh, it makes 4/4, not 5/5. Sorry, guys. It makes a 4/4 beast token whenever I play a land. Plus, it's already a 6/6 with trample, so winner, winner, beast dinner. Am I right, guys? Am I right? At the back? No? Okay. Scoop Swarm is similar, but it gets even better. So you start with 1 Scoop Swarm on the battlefield. Let's assume I already have 6 lands for the sake of it, because that happens extremely quickly with this deck. So I play a land and make a copy of Scoop Swarm, because I have 6 on my lands. Then play another land and I make a copy of the copy and a copy of the original Scoop Swarm. Do you see where this is going? It goes off, and it's quite a sight to see after some land drops, I'll tell you that. So looking into interaction and removal for this deck, because I have a lot of scary creatures in this deck, it's important for me to make sure they are safe. Sylvan Safekeeper is good for protecting these creatures, such as my commander or one of the win cons I've just shown you. And all I have to do is sack a land, which isn't the worst, really, for this deck, because I can usually bring it back with another card. Looking at board wipes, I have Fumigate, which gains me a nice bit of life, whereas Blasphemous Act is good for taking out big creatures, come on, focus, thank you. Big creatures such as Eldrazi's, with it costing 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. If I play Sylvan Awakening, turn all my lands into elementals, then I can play Blasphemous Act for super cheap, and they're indestructible as well, my lands, so they won't be affected by Blasphemous Act either. For creature removal, I look to Swords to Plowshare and Struggle Survive. Swords to Plowshare we know how it goes. Staple white removal card, can't go wrong. Only costs 1 as well. And then Struggle Survive, I'll flip it this way so you can read the other side. For artifact and enchantment removal, there is Crow's Grip and Return to Dust. Return to Dust is awesome if you can cast it on your main phase and do it twice, which makes me feel super evil. For stuff that gets rid of anything, I've got a Beast Within and a Generous Gift. Both do the same, like almost exactly the same, but one is definitely cuter than the other. I'll let you figure that one out. Finally, if you watch the gameplay, you'll know what card this is. It's Oko, Thief of Crowns, which is just awful for any opponent. Luckily, we thought we both deserved to deal with one in that game, so neither of us missed out on the fun. What else can I say about Oko? Totally mean, but totally fun. Oh, and from Eldraine. What a surprise. So in terms of basics, I run 5 forests, 2 mountains, 2 plains, 2 islands. I've got 1 of each snowland apart from the plains because we just couldn't find it. It's ran away and packed shop. So yeah, because I run mainly green spells, I've got a few more green forests in there. We've put the snow-covered lands in because with Field of the Dead it works really well to have cards with different names. So that's the reason for that. I've got a command tower, which basically balances out my colours and gives me a bit more flexibility. And then the following cards let me search for basics. We've got Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds. I love this Evolving Wilds. This art is really nice. Nom, 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 nom. Myriad Landscape, Fabled Passage, another amazing Eldraine card, Naya Panorama, and then I've got 1 of each coloured fetch land. So I've got a Windswept Heath, Flooded Strand, Misty Rainforest. Camera, will you focus please? Thank you. Wooded Foothills, Scalding Tarn, and an Arid Mesa. Like I said, it's good to have fetch lands in this deck because they essentially trigger Omnath twice. But if you don't have them, then you can just swap them in for basics because there's loads of ways to search up basics anyway in the deck. So it's not like you're missing out major. And then all my dual lands are fetchable. So I've got a Volatile Fjord, Highland Forest, Glacial Floodplain, Arctic Tree Line. Let's just take a moment, okay? Let's just have a look at this art. Oh my god, it's so nice. Can you just imagine yourself in one of those like hot spa lake things that they have in Iceland? You know, the ones in Reykjavik that everyone goes on Instagram and puts on? Yeah, I can just see myself in one of them looking up at the northern lights. But here I am just playing a bit of Magic. We've got Rhinewood Falls, Prairie Stream, Ralgrin Triome. This is really cool as well. It's the Ikoria one. I always think the Ikoria stuff looks really cool. I don't know if it's like the colour or the art style. Temple Garden, Breeding Pool, Canopy Vista, Scattered Groves, Cinderglade, Stomping Ground, a Sheltered Thicket, and then we've just got 3 lands left that are kind of my scary, actually helps me win the game cards. So one of the scary land cards is Field of the Dead. If you watch the gameplay, you'll know how powerful this land really is, especially when I'm hitting multiple land drops each turn. My zombie army really starts to get out of control. These two go together, so we've got Dark Depths and Thespian Stage. It's a really great combo for the deck. So what you do is you copy Dark Depths with Thespian Stage, and then because Dark Depths is legendary, you have to sack it because there's 2 of them. So then Thespian Sage is sacrificed as well because it has no counters on it, and you make a Marit Lage. Is it Marit Lage? Marit Lage? Marit Lage? I don't know. How do you say it? Someone tell me how you say it, please. I need clarification. Thespian Sage can also copy opponents' lands as well if they have something spicy that you want as well. Thanks for watching this deck tour. I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me and learning about one of my commander decks. What commander deck would you like to see next? Please let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Leave a comment if you have any recommendations or replacements in the deck. If you enjoyed talking Magic or gaming, you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's all in the description below for you. And if you want to have a closer look at the deck, you can look at the deck list below as well. But that's everything for today's video, and I'll see you next time. Have a good week. Bye!